I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate with me on this. And the thing is, ever since we were children, we were told, money is the root of all evil. Don't chase money. Money is not everything in life, and all of that. But as I started to gain consciousness, I realized money is not really the root of all evil. People are the root of all evil, and money just enables them to do that. So that doesn't mean money is the root of all evil. Money can be the root of some evil if it's used for evil. But of course, you can do a lot of good things with money as well. But apart from the good and bad of the money, right? Speaking from a very personal standpoint, what money means to each of us can vary deeply. But if you really think about it, from the whole negative perspective about money, money is really not that bad because everything in today's world costs money. You want to go eat a nice dinner, it costs money. You want to take your girlfriend out, it costs money. You want to retire your parents, you want to buy a house, anything you want to do costs money. So is money really that evil? And I never really understood why people call money evil. Just because like you can buy atom bombs and like bomb another country, it's evil. That doesn't make sense. You can also buy like an orphanage and then make that orphanage better, or maybe build a hospital or whatnot, right? So you can do a whole lot of things with money. And on this channel especially, I talk about money a lot to the extent where it sounds like I'm obsessed with it. But that's only because only once you have money, you can do everything else you really want to do. Now, if I just spoke about, oh, I want to retire my parents, or oh, I want to like buy a mansion in the Beverly Hills, and that's my end goal, it doesn't really make sense because to do that, I would need a significant amount of money. And okay, let's say a mansion costs like $10 million. Of course, it's like much more than that, but let's say it costs only $10 million. Now, once I make $10 million, it's very stupid for me to be like, okay, I've reached my goal. I can buy the mansion now because I can't spend everything I made on that damn mansion. So I've got to figure out a way to make so much money that it leaves me with a surplus after I buy the mansion. So maybe if my income supersedes $10 million, then maybe I can save enough and buy the mansion. So why I talk about money so much on this channel is because everything you want to do costs money, and only once you make that money, you can do everything you want to do. So here we actually talk about how to make that money, right? So you can start a business, job, or freelance, or whatever the fuck you want to do, right? So all I'm saying is money is not the end goal. So the reason I talk about money here is because everything you want to do can be done only after we make that money. So money is the means to the goal that we want to achieve. And only once we find a way to make that money can we actually reach that goal. And we don't talk about that enough because especially the environment I've grown up in, or the way I've seen others talk about money, I realize it's seen as such a taboo topic. Like you can't really talk about making money, and if you talk about a lot about making money, you will be considered money minded, and people will think you're this crazy psychopath who's really greedy, right? But that's absolutely stupid because if you don't really think about ways to make money, the only way that's really available to you is go to a good college, get a degree, go to a better college, get a job, and then work that job to make how much money you want. But if you really open your mind and if you really keep your goals in the end, or the amount of money you want to make in the end, only then you can actually plan to make that money. But if you just like keep a vague ass goal like, oh, I want to buy a house, then yeah, sure, you get a job, get a loan on the house and pay off that mortgage for the rest of your life. And it's easier said than done, but of course it's very complicated and it's a lot of work. And I truly believe spending a whole life just to buy a house is not worth it. But of course, that's just my goal. If someone really wants to buy a house and that's their only goal in life, then by all means, please go for it. But all I'm saying is, buying a house is rarely ever enough in today's world, at least, and that can take you your whole life alone. And if you rely on only one job and only some investments to do that, then we're pretty much cooked, right? But of course, there are people working a job and making money, but that's like top 1% of all the people in the world working a job. Unless you're like a VP of a very big company or a CEO, or you start your own company and become so fucking rich that you don't have to work a job ever again in your life. But then again, coming back to the initial point, money is not the end goal, right? That's why you'll see so many articles of like young people becoming super fucking rich and then being insanely miserable with their life because there are some things in life that are more important than money. Now, okay, let's say right the fuck now you get $100 million. Then what? You buy everything you want to. You buy the cars, Ferrari, mansion, Bugattis, jets, everything. Then what? You need someone to spend that money with. You need someone to spend time with because once you get all the money in the world, you'll realize that it was never about the money in the first place, right? It was about the freedom the money gets you. But once you get that freedom, if you don't have someone to share it with, if you don't have people who love you and people you love, then what the fuck are you going to do with all that money? You'll end up a very rich, miserable, and lonely human being. And I know I'm in no place to really say that because I've not made a significant amount of money, but I can say it from the point where I've been comfortable, and I also make a bit of money now. So I realized that okay, there are things in life more important than money, and if I spend all of my time, energy, and efforts on just making money, there will be something lacking, right? Because life has a very nice way of balancing things out. If you have too much of something, there's got to be a way to balance it out somewhere else in your life. So that's what I'm trying to do. While I'm also trying to make a lot of money, I'm trying to balance it out by keeping other aspects of my life in check as well. Because if I lose my mind making money, then what's the point in the end if I'm like rich as fuck and then just alone? You know, what'll I do with all the jets and private, whatever, mansions and fast cars and expensive dinners if I'm going to be eating alone at the dinner table? I might as well just live like how I'm living right now and have dinner by myself, right? So the amount of money that you have at the end won't make a difference if you don't really have a plan to spend it, or if you don't have something greater than money in your life, right? Because like I said, money is the means to your goal. It's never the end goal, because money, if money is your goal, then you will be unhappy eternally, because money is just numbers and numbers have no end. So you just keep chasing more numbers and more numbers and more numbers, and there are so many cases where people have chased those numbers and lost everything in exchange for that. There's this case about this guy called Raj, right? I forgot his full name, but essentially he was worth $100 million, and he was so crazy about becoming a billionaire with a B that he committed not insurance fraud, insider trading, and for a few years, and he made $17 million off of it. Mind you, he was already a centimillionaire, so he was already worth $100 million. But he engaged in a lot of illegal things like insider trading. Then he went to jail. His whole reputation was destroyed, and he was actually worth less at the end than how much he was worth initially. So all of that just for $17 million, and in the end, when his reputation was destroyed, he just said, fuck reputation. I can like make my reputation back. What is reputation? Whatever. But reputation is everything, because as humans, we're evolved to like be in society, right? A part of a greater community than ourselves. We can't just be reclusive in nature and just be a shut-in in our bedrooms, right? That's not who we are as human beings. So bottom line is money is definitely important, but in an attempt to get a lot of money, or chasing money, don't lose out on things that aren't as quantifiable as money, right? Your friends or family and all of that, because I've seen that happen a lot. I've seen it in front of me, and people have literally lost their minds and their life, because after they make all of their money, it's like, what do I do with all this money alone, right? So every time I talk about money on this channel, it's not because that's the only thing that's important in the world. Definitely not. There are other things that are just as important, but not as quantifiable, right? So we tend to place slightly lesser importance on that, because we put money on like a pedestal or whatever. But anyways, making money is something simple, not easy to do, but simple. And if we really like think about it, maybe we can make a lot of money. So I hope you realize money is the means and not the goal.